Good morning and welcome to another episode of Josh and Pat. I'm Joshua Klein, joined by Dave Klein, filling in for Patrick Hassett. I know he wanted an intro, but that's the intro. I'm sorry, I had to say it. Patrick doesn't get intro, I gotta be fair. Last night we watched a game that was honestly quite beautiful if you really think about it. It was one franchise saying, hey, we are tired of sucking. We don't want to have back-to-back number one draft picks. Because for years, the appeal to go into this game was seeing a half-naked guy dressed as a jaguar and sitting in a pool of water, urine, and booze. Not anymore. The Jaguars are for real, but on the flip side, Jets have problems. They might stink forever. And even when you think that they might have a team, turns out they do not. Zach Wilson might be one of the worst quarterbacks we've seen. You know it's bad when Jamarcus Russell is trending on Twitter. That's how bad it was. Zach Wilson was getting booed just consistently. But then everything seemed to change. The tide started to turn. A guy by the name of Streveler comes in the game and he is, all of a sudden, he's a hero. He marches them down the field. They don't score. But listen, when a guy who played for, and I'm going to double check this, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is getting more cheers than your number 2 draft pick, that's usually a problem. Dave Klein, what did you see last night? Is Chris Streveler the future of the Jets, or are they just going to stink forever?
Well, before I get into that, I think you're missing what the main story of last night was, and that is the end of Joe Flacco's career, and that is why I am wearing my honorary number 5 Joe Flacco jersey. The fact that they put in the 4th string quarterback over a Super Bowl winning, Super Bowl MVP quarterback to ignite a spark into the most dreadful offensive performance we've seen this year out of probably any team, basically says, hey, Joe, you're probably packing it up at the end of the year, which I think is a shame.
It is a shame. I think he leads a comeback there.
I think if you see how the Jets players responded to Chris Streveler coming into the game, they had energy and they were playing with an extra juice.
Dude's a Viking.
Put Flacco in. At least he can throw the ball. This guy was just basically, a Viking running around and, just trying to hit people, which is fine. Like, it was fun to watch.
Awesome.
There was a 5-minute stretch of that game where the football world was alive. Football world was alive. Everyone was into it. Everyone wanted to see Chris Streveler do something, and it just, at some point, just fizzled out. And listen, I know Flacco is, beyond his prime, but I've always felt like, hey, he can chuck it. If you need a guy in there that can chuck the ball, Flacco can do that. He might not have studied the playbook that hard, this year, but yeah. So, but the other part is like Zach Wilson, dude, could you take a career and put it in the dumpster faster? You just show no sign of improvement, and let's be honest, he was drafted way above his pay grade.
Way too high. I mean, if you look at the guys above him, there's some names or after him. Justin Fields, I'd rather have Justin Fields. Mac Jones, you'd definitely rather have Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson literally got drafted off of one play that went viral.
Yeah.
Literally one throw that went viral.
Yeah.
And hey, props to him. Get that extra money. Some are saying that he's never going to play in the NFL again. Colin Cowherd, last night, he went on record saying he doesn't even think he's a backup quarterback.
Yeah, and I saw that, and he's probably not. I mean, listen, there's a lot of talented quarterbacks out there. I mean, you look at
there's a lot of backups starting this week who legitimately have a chance to win football games.
Who will win games and who are competent. And you're backup for a reason if you're in the NFL. But you look at for the Ravens, Tyler Huntley, who's not having a great couple games. But last year when they put him in, he gave him a couple starts, and he started, things started clicking, and he started to move the ball, and he could run the offense. Zach Wilson, man, he just looked. There was nothing going on. He was missing throws. He wasn't in sync with his receivers. And you're going into year 2. You got it. Those things have got to be buttoned up. And the fact is that he's just done so many things wrong with his teammates. And
hey, got them the nice Christmas presents though to the O-line, those scooters.
I'm sure, yeah, that looked
10K. That's what I heard.
Well,
You might want to start investing that money and saving it.
He's basically buying friendship. Can you guys like me? Please like me.
Oh, look at it. It's so nice.
But he's like, listen, these kids.
You might want to hop on that scooter and scoot on out of New York, buddy.
The one thing I would say, like Colin Cowherd, and you and I have talked about this before, and he brought up an excellent point. When you go to a big-time program nowadays, right, and you are the quarterback, the pressure that is on these guys at those programs is unreal. They have to be able to perform week in and week out because any loss basically takes them out of the national championship game. And a lot of these guys, they're not drafted that high. They're just asked to run the offense with a lot of weapons, and that usually can translate into the NFL. I mean, Mac Jones is a prime example coming out of Alabama. He ran an offense with ridiculous weapons, and he comes into the NFL with 0 weapons, and he's not, he's managing the offense. If they had some more weapons around him, maybe
Pro Bowler.
He made the Pro Bowl?
Mac Jones
made
the Pro Bowl last year.
Oh. Last year, I thought you said.
No, not this year. He's a Pro Bowler, though. Mac Jones is a Pro Bowler. Don't let people forget that.
But the thing is that if you compare him, you're never going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. But the fact that he went to Alabama and he knows what it takes to run an NFL offense, that's the difference between him and a guy like Zach Wilson who went to BYU.
I'd argue Sam Darnold in this offense today, Jets might be a playoff team.
I remember when the Ravens played the Jets in 2019, and it was a Thursday night game, and the first half was just the Ravens just destroyed them. Lamar went off, and they were up by 5 touchdowns. It was just crazy. But the second half, Sam Darnold, and granted, we're dropping back in coverage. We're not on the line as much, but he could throw. He could run that offense. Now their coaching sucked. And, they had all kind of issues, but, it's almost like you got to have the right guy in the right situation. And, unfortunately for a lot of these quarterbacks, they get their opportunity. If they don't make the most of it, they're gone. Zach Wilson's a prime example. He's probably not going to be playing next year. And if he is probably 3rd, if not 4th on the depth chart. Yeah, and that's a guy that was a first-round quarterback pick last year.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And, Jets lose, basically saying, hey, we're not in the playoffs. Bengals clinch playoff berth because of this. So that shakes things up in the AFC North. And it's reported today, Lamar Jackson officially ruled out versus the Falcons. So you have 2 teams competing for the division. One guy's team clinched, the other team starting quarterback out. And everyone's saying, because this is a 3-week injury typically, so this was the week that Lamar Jackson was supposed to return. So now we have to question, is the injury just worse, or is Lamar saying, I don't want to rush it back. I want to take my time with this because I got a contract on the line. So maybe I could play for you guys in a game that is pretty critical for our playoffs and our future. But no, this is about me. Is Lamar finally being selfish?
Well, I can't relate to that because as somebody that's currently injured, post-knee surgery 1 week, crutches here, I am
How's the crutches?
Playing through the pain. I could be on the DL, but I'm here. I've worked every single day at my normal job.
Went up the stairs.
Up the stairs with the crutches, sucking it up for the team, making sure that it's team/family first.
Yep.
Everything else, my knee will recover eventually. I'll be able to walk normally and do normal things like every human being out there. But right now, the team's the most important thing, and I'm playing through the pain. So I can't relate to Lamar Jackson saying, I'll be there someday. But in all honesty, when I when he first had the injury, I thought they were shutting him down for the year because I just, I think people were looking at their offense and were like, hey, we can't do anything in the offense. And the defense at that point was just starting to click. But, now it's like the defense is playing really well.
Run game's got better.
The running game is healthy. And, when those two guys are healthy and they're clicking, and even J.K. Dobbins is not 100%, but his ability to find the hole right now and get those extra yards.
Yeah. He tweeted out. He said, "Hey, just wait till I get to full speed."
Right, and the breakaway runs that he's had, they caught up to him because he's not 100%. But the fact that he can get 20, 25 yards down the field on some runs is amazing, and you got to take advantage of that right now. As we head down the stretch with 3 games left, you got you've got the Falcons this week, and that. They're not in the playoff hunt for a reason. They're not that good. And then you got 2 teams that you've already beat. So the Bengals, I'm going to chalk that up to a loss. I don't think the Ravens beat the Bengals in the last game of the year. But if they win this week, they clinch a playoff berth, right? Because they just lost last night.
They have to win, and I think one other thing has to happen.
Okay, so they're still in the hunt. And like Mark Andrews said, everything they want is still ahead of them. They can theoretically still win the division. If they win out, they win the division. And if they win this week and some things happen, they at least make the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, hey, it's a new season. And I just don't know right now if they come out and they have a dud game against the Falcons and they squeak by. I think Pittsburgh's going to be a challenge for them. And I think Cincinnati's going to crush them because to go against a Cincinnati team, you have to be able to put up points because you can slow them down offensively, but you're not going to stop them. And Pittsburgh is playing with a chip on their shoulder right now. They're 6-8. If they win this week, they still believe they're in the hunt, and Tomlin's going to have them ready to play. So the fact that we don't have Lamar this week puts a lot of pressure on Huntley. A lot of pressure on the offense. Yeah. They got to come out and do something. I think they beat the Falcons. I mean, it's a home game.
They don't beat the Falcons. There are
They don't deserve to make the playoffs.
There are issues. Yeah.
But
they probably.
But I think then you get that Pittsburgh game after that, and that's going to be like a tense game. So hopefully, they can clinch the playoff berth this week, and then just work on improving stuff the next 2 weeks because I'm not sure.
Last 2 losses though, you lose to the Jaguars, who I think the Jaguars might be for real. So
yeah,
they
look legit. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is
and Steelers are on the come up. So it's like it's like
maybe
we're overreacting. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's a different like I look at the Jaguars and I go, okay, they were bad for so long. They're stockpiling draft picks over the years and. Having those players and finally having a coach
you have enough number 1 draft picks, you're probably going to be good eventually. That's what
right. Like,
I'd have to assume.
Same thing with the Browns. When the Browns had all those number 1s, they eventually could put it together. If you have good coaching and good leadership in your organization, hopefully you can put something together on the field eventually. And I think last year with Urban Meyer coaching, I think that that was a dumpster fire. And now we
learned a lot about Urban Meyer that year.
Yeah. And now with more stable coaching, you can see what Trevor Lawrence, listen, he's making the guys around him really well. What?
It's a windstorm out there.
It's a tornado. Play really well. And, man, can you imagine, next year, I think that division is kind of in shambles a little bit. I think they're going to come out of the gate firing. If they came out hot this year, I mean, they were in a lot of games.
I mean, they did. To be fair, they did come out hot. They cooled off. I put them on my top 10 early on in the season. I immediately regretted that. I felt embarrassed, and then it turns out maybe I was right the whole time. Yeah, they could be good. Listen, like I said, Lamar Jackson out versus Falcons means backup coming. It's the week of the backup. Tannehill not playing versus the Texans in a game where again Titans are they're right there. They're not locked in. And then the biggest news is Gardner Minshew will start versus the Cowboys. Now, Mike Jones, friend of the show, he said to me, listen, if Gardner Minshew comes out and balls, it really hurts the Jalen Hurts MVP conversation because then it's just like, oh, Eagles just have a lot of good weapons. And I stood by. I said, Mike, I think you're right. But it could be interesting because I think Gardner Minshew's good. Cowboys are also good. The Eagles have a chance here where they could potentially lose the number 1 seed. And I think that would be an all-time like collapse. And they could come into the playoffs with zero momentum. I mean, look at their next 3 games. It's Cowboys, which you have Minshew playing, who Minshew's good, but they could easily fumble that. Saints easily could lose to them. I mean, not easily. Sorry, that could be a stretch. They could lose to them. It's any given Sunday, but then they play the Giants, and the Giants are starting to figure things out. I think we're going to find out a lot about this Eagles team, and I am a known Eagles hater. But I think the Eagles could be exposed in the stretch here.
Gardner Minshew, it's like Minshew mania is like
I love Minshew mania.
The 17-year cicada. It just it pops up.
It comes back.
Every day, it comes back up, and like you're either riding it, for a couple weeks, and picking dead, cicada shells off of you.
It's loud, and it's loud, by the way.
It's loud.
It's very loud.
Yeah, people go bananas for it, right? It's very equivalent. But then it fizzles out and goes away, and then you forget about it for a few years, and it's back. And here it is. We're back at it with him, and I think there's legitimacy that if he comes out and balls, that it kind of takes away from Jalen Hurts.
Definitely does.
As I've had conversations about Jalen Hurts in the past, and some have gone well, some have not gone well.
It's very true.
It is true, and I look at him this year, and I think he's I would put him at he's top 2 MVP candidate for me.
For sure.
And
top 2.
Listen, but the reality is that they do have weapons, and it's he's getting them the ball. Like I see his passes. He throws a good ball.
A.J. Brown's open every single play though.
Pretty much
every single play.
Or if he's covered, he can catch. He's going to go get the ball. He's that good. And so Minshew can come out and he can chuck it around and throw it.
Great.
I think it's going to be a tough game though. I mean, I think the Cowboys got a lot to play for, and they feel like this is their year too. So we'll see what happens.
Cowboys are having an all-time collapse though. I mean, I think the Cowboys are doing exactly what we expect the Cowboys to do. So maybe this is going to be a real test for the Cowboys more than anything.
They got to bounce. I think they'll get it together. Where are they playing that game?
They're playing it in Dallas.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah, so that's good. So Trevor Bauer. This is a great transition. I'm a professional show host here. Trevor Bauer is back, and this is where we talk at MLB here because we're a sports show. We touch a little bit of everything. Trevor Bauer is back. Unknown if he's going to be with the Los Angeles. MLB said, hey, suspension renewed. Some evidence came out that said maybe he is more innocent than we perceived. We don't know. We don't know. This is basically the Deshaun Watson of the MLB. Turns out in life, if you are good at something that people are willing to pay money for, you are pretty secure. And that's what we're learning. And everyone's saying that Steve Cohen is gonna pay ridiculous amount of money to sign him. In which case, and I hate to say it, I'm kind of becoming a Mets fan here.
Yeah, I'll never be a Mets fan.
And I hate to say it because I hate New York.
Well,
but it just feels good because it's kind of like a screw you to the Yankees.
Listen, but here's the problem.
And it's like I'm all for if baseball is going to be like pay to win and say, hey, if you have the most money, you can be really good. Then I think it's well deserved. Get the richest guy in baseball, let him buy all the players, and let's see what happens to MLB.
Listen, that is the problem with MLB. So it's the off-season for baseball, and the two biggest stories are how some billionaire is just going to spend $1 gazillion to build a team, and a guy that was accused of multiple sexual assaults is beat his suspension, and now he's reinstated. So that's a problem when you're considered one of the top sports league in this country, and that's the off-season news. The off-season for the NFL, there is no off-season. They have so much quality news content that comes
Yep.
out after the Super Bowl to training camp that they keep people interested in it. Baseball has no clue what they're doing. And that's the story I see, is that you've taken a proud sport and you've regionalized it across the country, because you have a lot of people that don't live in a Major League Baseball town that give a crap about baseball, and that you don't have that with the NFL. You can drive anywhere in this country, and you'll see some jersey out of nowhere, and they're like, "Hey, you're a Cowboy fan? This is Idaho." Like, yeah, I always love the Cowboys.
Yep.
So baseball's got to get their act together. Until you can figure out how that you not allow billionaires in huge markets just to buy their way into having a team that probably makes the playoffs and then most likely doesn't win because there's no cohesion. I don't know, but they just don't really seem interested in making their sport better. They just are interested in making their owners rich, which, hey, whatever, it's capitalism. Do whatever you want, but they're got to be losing market share. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Got to be losing money. Speaking of money, DirecTV comes in, YouTube TV comes in and says, DirecTV, you're no longer needed. So to all the older audience, just so you guys know, if you guys want to watch NFL games starting next year, you're going to need to go on YouTube. It's the Red app on your phone. And I think this is great news for every single person who doesn't have DirecTV. If you have DirecTV, the only reason you had DirecTV is probably for the NFL, so you might need to rethink your plan there. But I'm excited about this deal. I'm excited that we could finally watch NFL games. And it leads to the question, I really do think, now that Amazon's coming to the game, Apple TV lost to YouTube, I think that we're getting closer and closer to getting to where NASCAR is, where, why not call it the YouTube TV series or the Amazon Prime League? And it's just a suggestion, but I think that it could be good for the business.
Yeah, that sounds fun. That's going to be great.
Yeah, we
need more corporate money in sports to, tilt it one way or the other. That's
exactly.
I thought DirecTV customers subscribe to DirecTV for the 150 music channels you got to scroll through.
They do get that, and that is great.
But
it is a perk.
I would say this. Here's where the NFL needs to get their act together. So last Saturday, they got 2 games.
Miserable.
First game, Vikings, Colts.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the greatest football games you would ever watch if you wanted to see an amazing comeback. It was the biggest comeback ever. Right?
History of, yeah.
Perfect. However, if you really wanted to see the beginning of the Browns-Ravens game,
which there are select people in certain markets that would like that.
Exactly. And we happen to not live in what is considered a Baltimore market.
Which is literally just Baltimore, by the way. It's not. We are 2.5 hours away from Baltimore. If you were in Texas and your team was Dallas, and you looked at a map, you would just assume you were in Dallas.
Yeah.
Where we are compared to Baltimore.
Right. There's cities that you take the train from we are into the city to work, and you're considered a suburb.
Yeah.
But so we had no ability to watch the beginning of that game, and they gotta tighten that. So hopefully,
I think this is a big win.
If they can get it, on YouTube and figure it out. But the whole thing, I don't know, the quality of the games on the Amazon Prime channel this year started off strong, won first game, and then they had some duds, but they got.
But this is every game, though. This is every game, so it's like you're gonna have great games, you're gonna have bad games. I think it's gonna be great. And
I think it's great because we don't have DirecTV.
I'm all for it.
And now I watch everything on YouTube anyway.
Bars are gonna need to get this figured out. I was at Texas Roadhouse the other day. I said, "Hey, can you pop on the Thursday night football game?" They're like, "What channel is it on?" I was like, "Oh, it's Prime." And they're
well, they probably have all these old TVs.
They had no idea what I was talking about.
They don't have smart TVs, and so they don't have the app loaded. And you'll be installing Fire Sticks all around. They'll have to.
Every Texas Roadhouse in America needs to have the Thursday night football game. It's Thursday night football game. There's only 3 days a week that, like, on those days, there's one thing that's supposed to be on TV.
Right, exactly. Listen, I was on a cruise, and there was Thursday night football. The Ravens were playing. I walked into this, and they had a sports bar, and I walk in, and literally it was some like D2 college football game on and soccer, and I'm like, hey, are you gonna put the NFL game on? And they're like, what? I was like, it's on Amazon Prime, and they're like, what? Hold on, let me ask. And I'm like, I'll give you my account. Here, just log in with mine. And they eventually figured it out. Like, they were able to get it going.
Let's go.
But they weren't prepared for it, and they probably like, oh, what do we do?
New wave is coming. You
I
gotta
would
get
hope
ready.
most places have figured that out. But you're right, Texas Roadhouse. They figured it out a lot.
And that's a staple in America. I know people are going to Texas Roadhouse all over.
The fact that you can walk in and eat peanuts immediately and throw the shells on the floor, which unfortunately was a pre-COVID thing. I don't even know if.
Well, now here's the thing: they give you the peanuts, and the problem is this floor. They do a good job of sweeping it, so you don't know if it's appropriate for you to throw on the floor. I don't want to throw my peanuts on just a clean floor. I need it to be messy already, because then I feel like it's me.
They should strategically pre-shell the floor so you feel comfortable.
It's like, yeah, they sweep it at the end of the night and the beginning of the morning when they open up. They
don't even want you in the waiting room. They don't even, they want you in your car to send a text to come in. Here's the thing: if I'm going to wait in my car, I want somebody to bring me peanuts.
That's a good point.
If they can get that together, like once you put on the waiting list, it should send like automatically when you pull into the parking lot, a waitress should come out and like, here's your peanuts.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Speaking of food, this week I'm redeeming not only myself, but the entire integrity of everything that I'm doing. We're doing the Christmas Picks and Pancakes parlay. Now, everybody knows and follows along knows that the Thanksgiving parlay was so good until it wasn't. and we're really going to work that through because we're on a curse. Everything I touch turns to whatever the opposite of gold is. But this week, I think I have something figured out, and I really feel good about Christmas because Christmas, there's just a magic about Christmas that you can't describe. And so the parlay I've concocted together is Packers plus 3.5 against the Dolphins. Dolphins are playing bad. He hasn't been playing great, and Packers are in a must-win scenario where their playoff hopes are still alive. You heard Aaron Rodgers talking. He's like, listen, we can still make the playoffs. And I think if I know anything about Aaron Rodgers, is he's going to turn it on when he has to. Got a new girlfriend. Her name's Blue. She's like, if you ever look at her Instagram.
Just Blue?
Just Blue.
That's a great girlfriend name.
And she's, she's vegan. I don't think she's a witch. I'm not saying she's not a witch, if that is what she identifies as.
Wiccan?
I don't think she's ever...
Wiccan is the appropriate term.
I would be surprised if she's ever seen a football game. Or if she even knows what it is. She's probably... If I had to guess, she's probably anti-football because...
It's pigskin.
Pigskin, and then also you have the jets flying, all the transporting the teams. But it seems to me like since...
Carbon footprint high in the NFL.
Since they've been dating, we have to imagine that the Packers have been performing better in these past few weeks. So Aaron Rodgers' new girlfriend, Packers plus 3.5 seems good. Rams plus 3 against the Broncos. If I know anything, is that betting against Russell Wilson is a good move. And is Russell Wilson even playing?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So that actually scares me more.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, now that I'm thinking about it. But Baker Mayfield, that's all I need to say. Baker, did they have a couple hiccups this past week? Yes. And does it seem like the more he knows the playbook, the worse he plays? Yes.
Yeah. They shouldn't even give him one. They should just literally just
throw him out there.
Here's your guy. Just make it up in the huddle. Do whatever.
Yeah. But I still think they can do it. It's hard for me to believe that the Broncos can win by more than 3 points against any team. It's hard for me to believe that. And the last is Buccaneers minus 7.5 against the Cardinals. Now, everyone's thinking that take the Cardinals. What are you doing, Josh? Okay, Bucks stink. Are you kidding me? This is late December, Tom, we're talking about. It's officially late December, Tom. What are we even talking about here? You think I'm going to bet against Tom Brady on Christmas? Because you already know he's not missing, like, all these other people, they're like, I'm missing spending time with my family. You know, this is like, it's tough that I got to be here. Tom Brady doesn't care about that. I'm not even sure if Tom Brady's going to see his family on Christmas. He probably gifted his kids the new Madden just so they could spend time with him. So, give me Bucks minus 7.5. And that's the parlay. What do you think? You think that feels like a winner, right?
If I will say this about your picks, they are about as accurate as Baker Mayfield playing without knowing the full complement of receivers he has. It's going to be wildly inaccurate.
I would say that's a complete. I think Baker Mayfield's great. I thought that was a compliment for a second when you were teeing that up.
If you any comparison to Baker Mayfield, unless you're in college, like listen, Baker Mayfield in college was a stud. Like like that's the guy you want to be.
Like I would say, So you're saying like my picks equivalent to Baker Mayfield's attitude in college.
Well, I would say maybe, yeah. You're bold. You're strong. You believe that you're right. So
I do.
That's good. But here's the thing about.
And I take it on the shins on the internet, guys. I just want to let you know.
Let me just say about
the
Buccaneers. They're sitting at 6-8, first place.
First place. They've done everything they've needed to do so far.
Win 6 games. By December, at Christmas, they're either going to have 6 wins and still potentially. Who do they play this week? The Cardinals. So
yeah,
and they literally can lose and still be in first place. So
yeah,
they could be going into a January game, 6 wins, still in first place.
Yep.
To make the playoffs, which there's
that's exactly where you want to be.
It up. And then you get in the playoffs, and I don't know, they get some guys back that are hurt, and they figure out a game plan, and all of a sudden, because if they win their division, they host the first round. They have a home game.
Would be sweet. And you know what Tom's going to do with the home game.
They could do. I mean, the first half of that game last week, they looked great. I thought they were going to beat the Bengals. I'm like, holy crap, they're going to beat the Bengals, and the Ravens will still be in first place. The second half, the wheels just completely fell off, and they fell off early. But I love. I hope they go. I hope they make the playoffs at 7 wins, and they just go in and just make a run, and just they expose the NFC as frauds. That would be great.
They definitely could. It's going to be listen, this is a fun Christmas Eve, Christmas weekend. Now, is it going to be difficult to watch some of these games? Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of balancing, doing what everybody else in the family wants to do and doing what we all want to do. Okay? It's going to be tough. So to all the people out there who are struggling with that, and, we believe in you, we're rooting for you. Let's have ourselves a Christmas. Merry Christmas Eve, and I'll see you next week for next week's episode of Josh and Pat.